You're in my seat, and we both know you don't belong here." The words sliced through the recycled cabin air as Patricia Henderson's manicured finger jabbed toward Marcus Johnson's chest. Her diamond bracelet scraped against his shoulder as she reached past him, yanking his worn briefcase from the overhead bin. Papers spilled, financial documents, employee complaints, a photo of a young woman that fluttered to the floor. "Ma'am, this is 14C. My assigned—" "Rebecca!" Patricia's voice pitched higher, wine-sweet breath washing over him. "This man is refusing to move from my seat." The flight attendant materialized instantly, her smile already apologetic, but not toward Marcus. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Henderson. We'll resolve this immediately." Marcus felt his pulse steady, not quicken. Around them, phones lifted like shields. A teenager typed furiously, "Karen attacking black passenger lift now." In his pocket, his fingers found his company ID card, still hidden. Soon, everyone would learn exactly who didn't belong here. The narrow aisle of Flight 447 filled with familiar boarding chaos. Marcus moved deliberately, cataloging every interaction. A white businessman struggled with an oversized bag, while flight attendant Rebecca rushed to help, her practiced smile bright. "Let me get that for you, Mr. Peterson." 2 rows back, an elderly black woman wrestled with a similarly sized case. Rebecca's smile dimmed. "Ma'am, that needs to fit properly. Federal regulations." Marcus's jaw tightened. The pattern was unmistakable. He found his seat, 14C, an aisle seat in premium economy. As he stowed his briefcase carefully overhead, his fingers brushed against the documents inside. Quarterly reports, employee complaints, 27 discrimination reports in 6 months, all involving Flight 447's crew. The board wanted lawyers and settlements. Marcus wanted truth. "Excuse me." A young black professional squeezed past, heading to 14A. They exchanged a knowing glance, the kind that said, "I see it too." "David Thompson." The man introduced himself quietly. "Consultant. I fly this route weekly." "Marcus," he replied simply. David lowered his voice. "The crew here, they have a reputation. I've filed 2 complaints myself. Nothing changes." Marcus had built this airline from his father's small charter service into a major carrier. 30 years of 6 a.m. meetings and red-eye flights. His father's motto hung in every break room. "Dignity in the skies for all who fly." Somewhere, that promise had broken. The captain's voice crackled overhead. "Good afternoon, folks. This is Captain Morrison. We're expecting a smooth flight to Chicago today." Morrison. Marcus knew the name from the complaints. 30-year veteran, spotless record, and according to 3 separate reports, a habit of random additional screenings that weren't random at all. Marcus pulled out his phone, scrolling through emails while actually documenting observations. The mother from the boarding line struggled alone with her bags, while Rebecca helped another passenger rearrange an entire overhead compartment for designer shopping bags. "Can you believe this?" David gestured subtly toward the front. Behind them, conversations drifted. "They always make me check my bag, but look at that. Same crew that gave my husband 3 random checks last month. I started recording everything, just in case ... Marcus thought of Amelia. She'd wanted to be a pilot. "Dad," she'd said at 16, "I want everyone to feel safe in the sky. Like you make me feel safe." The memory burned. An elegantly dressed white woman paused in the aisle, her eyes scanning premium economy with visible displeasure. She clutched a designer handbag worth more than most people's monthly rent, her manicure tapping against its gold clasps. "These seats are getting worse," she said loudly to her phone companion. "Remember when they actually valued loyal customers?" Marcus watched her check her boarding pass, 24C, main cabin. Her face fell, but instead of moving on, her gaze locked onto his row. "Some people," she said louder, still on her phone, "don't know where they belong." The temperature seemed to rise. David shifted uncomfortably. A couple across the aisle pretended not to notice. Rebecca appeared, her face lighting with recognition. "Mrs. Henderson, so lovely to see you again. How was Palm Beach?" "Divine, until this." She waved her boarding pass. "You know I always fly premium. Patricia Henderson." Marcus recognized the name from complaint files, not as a victim, but as someone frequently mentioned by victims. A pattern within the pattern. "I'm so sorry about the confusion." Rebecca's voice dripped sympathy. Her eyes drifted to Marcus and David. "Sometimes certain people book seats they shouldn't have." "Let me see what I can do." Marcus closed his eyes briefly, feeling the weight of what needed to be done. This wasn't just about policies or procedures. It was about a culture that had metastasized while he'd been focused on expansion and profit margins. His phone buzzed with a text from his daughter Janet, now VP of Operations. "Board meeting in 72 hours. They want answers." He typed back, "They'll get them," because Marcus Johnson hadn't built his empire by avoiding hard truths. And today, Flight 447 was about to become a classroom for the entire industry. Patricia's voice rose another octave. "This is simply unacceptable." The lesson was about to begin. Patricia Henderson's designer heel clicked against the aircraft floor as she planted herself beside row 14. The scent of her expensive perfume something French and overwhelming filled the cramped space. Marcus noticed the slight sway in her stance, the wine flush in her cheeks. "Excuse me." Her voice carried the sharp edge of entitlement. "You're in my seat." Marcus looked up calmly from his phone. "I don't believe so." "This is 14C. Patricia didn't even glance at his boarding pass. "There's obviously been a mix-up. I fly this route enough to know." She turned to Rebecca, who had materialized with suspicious speed. "This gentleman has taken my seat." David straightened in 14A, his phone already recording. Across the aisle, Maria Rodriguez, a teacher from Houston, lowered her book. "Sir, may I see your boarding pass?" Rebecca's request came practiced, but her hand was already extended toward Marcus, not Patricia. Marcus produced it. Rebecca barely glanced before turning to Patricia with sympathy. "Let me resolve this quickly for you." "That's not her seat," David interjected. "She just said 24 degrees Celsius when she was on the phone." Rebecca's smile tightened. "Sir, please don't interfere. Mrs. Henderson is one of our valued frequent flyers." "And he's not?" Maria Rodriguez spoke up, her teacher's voice cutting through. "You haven't even checked her boarding pass." Patricia's face reddened. "I don't need this." She reached for Marcus's briefcase in the overhead bin, yanking it toward him. "Some people need to learn their place." The cabin fell silent. Even the boarding chaos seemed to pause. Marcus caught his briefcase as papers shifted inside. "My place?" His voice remained steady, though David caught the tension underneath. "You know exactly what I mean." Patricia waved dismissively. "Rebecca, handle this situation. I'm not dealing with this." A child's voice piped up from row 16. "Mommy, why is that lady being mean?" "Shh, sweetie," her mother whispered. But her phone was already out, recording. Rebecca pulled out her radio. "We need assistance in row 14. "For what?" Maria demanded. "A passenger sitting in his paid seat?" "Mom, please don't escalate this," Rebecca warned. The speed of what happened next shocked everyone. Within 90 seconds, 2 officers appeared at the aircraft door. They moved through the aisle with purpose, bypassing Patricia entirely and flanking Marcus's seat. Officer Daniels, badge number 4423, hooked his thumb in his belt near his radio. "Sir, we're going to need you to come with us." "For sitting in my assigned seat?" Marcus asked quietly. "For creating a disturbance." Daniel's partner, Officer Rodriguez, at least looked uncomfortable. "We've received a complaint." "One complaint," Maria corrected. "And she's clearly been drinking." "Ma'am, please stay out of this," Daniels warned. More phones appeared. The soft glow of screens illuminated shocked faces throughout the cabin. In row 16B, James Wilson, a veteran with a Desert Storm cap, unbuckled his seatbelt. "Officers," Marcus said quietly. "I'm happy to show you my boarding pass, my ID, whatever you need. But I've done nothing wrong. That's for us to determine." Daniels stepped closer. "Let's handle this calmly." Patricia smirked, already sliding toward 14B. "Finally. Some people just don't understand basic civility." "This is wrong," David said loudly. "Everyone's recording this. The whole world will see." Rebecca intervened, her training finally surfacing. "Officers, perhaps we can resolve this more quietly." "You called them," an elderly woman accused from row 17. "I saw you signal before she even complained." Captain Morrison's voice interrupted. "Ladies and gentlemen, we need to clear the aisle for boarding to continue." Marcus stood slowly, deliberately. His 6'2" frame unfolded with quiet dignity. "I'll cooperate fully." He reached for his briefcase, movements careful and non-threatening. "But I need everyone to know I've done nothing but sit in the seat I paid for." "Sir, hands where we can see them," Daniels said sharply. The collective intake of breath was audible. Dozens of phones captured the moment a black man being treated like a criminal for existing in premium economy. "This is being live-streamed," someone called out. "Thousands are watching." Patricia's smirk faltered slightly. Rebecca's face had gone pale. Marcus straightened his blazer. "Officers," he said, "we should discuss this properly. Everyone deserves that." "Move," Daniels ordered, though less forcefully. "Please." The die was cast. But Marcus knew the real test was just beginning. The galley area reeked of stale coffee and industrial disinfectant. Marcus stood with his hands visible, watching Officer Daniels flip through his documents with barely concealed irritation. Around the corner he could hear passengers arguing, defending him to increasingly flustered crew members. "Marcus Johnson," Daniels read aloud. "Says here you're some kind of executive?" "Yes." "Which company?" The question came out like an accusation. Marcus paused, calculating. "Not yet. I work in business consulting, aviation sector." "That explains the attitude." Daniels handed back his license. "You people always think you know better than crews." Rodriguez shifted uncomfortably. "Dan, maybe we should—" "You people!" Marcus's voice remained level. "What exactly does that mean, officer? Don't twist my words." Daniels stepped closer. "We get complaints about passengers making scenes all the time." Through the galley window, Marcus glimpsed David standing in the aisle, phone raised despite Rebecca's attempts to make him sit. Maria Rodriguez was openly taking notes. The elderly woman, Dorothy, he'd heard someone call her, had recruited 3 other passengers as witnesses. "The only scene," Marcus said carefully, "was created when Mrs. Henderson took my belongings and demanded my seat. She's a frequent flyer." "Diamond status." Rebecca interjected, her voice shaky. "She flies with us every week. And that gives her the right to take another passenger's seat?" Captain Morrison appeared, his silver hair and commanding presence filling the narrow space. He took one look at Marcus and his expression hardened. "What's the situation?" "Passenger dispute," Daniels reported. "Refusing to accommodate a seating issue. I showed my boarding pass." I sat in my assigned seat. "I've cooperated with every request." Marcus kept his voice steady. "What more is needed?" Morrison's eyes narrowed. "In my 30 years of flying, I've learned to read situations quickly. Sometimes it's better for everyone if we find alternative solutions." "You mean like moving me to accommodate someone who wants my seat without cause?" "I mean like avoiding further disruption." Morrison's tone carried decades of authority. "We can offer you a later flight, full refund, maybe even an upgrade next time." Marcus almost smiled. They were following a predictable playbook. "And if I prefer to keep the seat I purchased, then we continue this conversation with possible removal." Morrison glanced at Daniels. "My authority as captain is quite broad." Through the service window, Marcus caught sight of something powerful. James Wilson, the veteran, had made his way forward. His Desert Storm cap was off, revealing grey hair and determined eyes. "Captain Morrison?" Wilson's voice boomed. "James Wilson, retired Air Force, 20 years of service. I need to speak with you. Sir, please return to your seat," Rebecca pleaded. "Not until I've had my say." Wilson stood ramrod straight. "I watched that woman harass this passenger. I watched your crew show clear bias, and now I'm watching you try to remove him for existing while black." "That's a serious accusation," Morrison bristled. "It's a serious situation." Maria Rodriguez had joined them, teacher voice in full effect. "I've documented everything. Times, quotes, actions. My sister's a civil rights attorney." Marcus felt the momentum shifting. More passengers were gathering, their phones creating a constellation of accountability. "I'll ask one more time," Morrison said, ignoring the growing crowd. "Will you voluntarily take a later flight?" "No. Then you leave me no choice." Morrison reached for the intercom. "Captain," Rodriguez spoke up suddenly. "Maybe we should verify Mrs. Henderson's boarding pass first, for the official report?" Silence. Rebecca's face went white. Morrison's jaw tightened. "That won't be necessary," he said stiffly. "Actually," Marcus said, opening his briefcase slightly, revealing the edge of official documents, "I think transparency is exactly what's necessary. You see, Captain Morrison, I believe in accountability. Every interaction, every decision, every violation of federal aviation policies regarding discrimination." Morrison stepped back slightly. "Is that a threat?" "It's a principle." Marcus let the briefcase close. "One you might want to consider before your next decision." Daniel's radio crackled. "Unit 23, please provide status update. We're receiving multiple calls about your location." The color began draining from Morrison's face. Something bigger was brewing. "Captain, we need you in the cockpit immediately." First Officer Sarah Mitchell's urgent tone cut through the intercom. Priority 1 call from headquarters. The crowd of passengers had grown dense. They pressed against the galley dividers, phones raised, capturing every second. Someone whispered, "My live stream has 12,000 viewers." Patricia Henderson pushed through, her designer heels catching on the service cart. "What is taking so long?" "I have a meeting in Chicago. Ma'am, please return to—" Rebecca started. "Do you know who I am?" Patricia's voice climbed higher. "I spend $50,000 a year with this airline. I've been diamond status for 8 years. Marcus watched her carefully. Behind the bluster, he caught something else. A flicker of uncertainty. Her eyes kept darting to the phones, to the faces of passengers who were no longer looking away. "Mrs. Henderson," Officer Rodriguez said slowly, "can you show us your boarding pass?" "I don't need to show you anything!" But her hand moved instinctively to her purse. "Actually," Maria Rodriguez held up her phone, "I have video from when you were waving it around. You clearly said 24C main cabin. I can replay it." The silence stretched taut. Dorothy pushed forward with surprising strength for her age. 50 years ago, they wouldn't let my husband sit in the front of the bus. Today, you won't let this man sit in the seat he paid for. What's really changed? "This is completely different," Patricia sputtered. "Is it?" James Wilson stood beside Dorothy. "I fought for this country, watched friends die for the promise that all Americans would be treated equally. And here we are, still fighting the same battle." Morrison's phone rang. He answered with visible reluctance, his face growing paler with each word. "Yes, sir. I understand. No, we haven't." "He what?" His voice cracked on the last word. Through the gap in the crowd, Marcus saw something beautiful happening. Passengers were standing up throughout the cabin. Not moving, not chanting, just standing. Silent witnesses refusing to be bystanders. A teenager called out, "We're all watching." The whole world sees what's happening here. David had moved closer, still recording. "Captain Morrison, for the record, can you explain why you're trying to remove this passenger?" "This is a private matter," Morrison began. Nothing's private when you discriminate publicly. Maria interjected. My live stream title is Airline Removes Black Passenger for Sitting in Paid Seat. 20,000 watching now. Rebecca's hands shook as she tried to maintain control. Everyone, please, we need to calm down. We are calm, Dorothy said sharply. We're calmly documenting discrimination. We're calmly refusing to be silent. We're calmly making sure this never happens again. More crew members appeared, looking confused and alarmed. A younger flight attendant, Thomas, whispered urgently to Rebecca, Corporate's calling all department heads. What's happening? Patricia's bravado was cracking. I just wanted my upgrade. I always get upgraded when seats are available, but his seat wasn't available. James Wilson pointed out. You just decided it should be yours. Morrison's phone rang again. This time, he put it on speaker accidentally for a moment, and everyone heard, The passenger in 14C, do you have any idea who... Before he frantically turned it off. Who what? David asked loudly. Who he is. Does it matter? Should it matter? The younger flight attendant, Thomas, stepped forward, nervously. Captain, I think there's something you should know. I ran the passenger manifest through our system. Mr. Johnson ... Stop! Morrison commanded, but his voice lacked conviction. No, let him speak! The crowd demanded almost in unison. Marcus remained silent, watching the machinery of discrimination grind against the force of collective witness. His briefcase felt heavy with the weight of evidence, of responsibility, of change that needed to come. Officer Daniels had grown increasingly uncomfortable. Maybe we should all just take a step back. Now you want to step back? Maria's teacher voice cut through. After you tried to remove an innocent man, Rodriguez pulled Daniels aside, showing him something on his phone. Daniels' face went through several expressions, confusion, recognition, then alarm. Dan, Rodriguez whispered, but loud enough for others to hear. Look at the company name on those documents in his briefcase. Look at the corporate address. The cabin had become a pressure cooker. Passengers throughout were now standing, creating an unprecedented scene. The pilot's authority, usually absolute, seemed to shrink against the weight of collective moral witness. Ladies and gentlemen, Rebecca tried over the intercom, please take your seats so we can... We're not sitting down for injustice. Someone called out. The phrase caught on, rippling through the cabin. Not sitting down for injustice. Morrison looked trapped, his 30 years of authority crumbling in real time. This is a safety issue now. The only safety issue, James Wilson boomed, is the safety of black passengers on your flights. How safe do you think, Mr. Johnson feels right now? Patricia had shrunk into herself, frantically typing on her phone. Deleting posts, Marcus realized, trying to erase her digital trail. But dozens of phones had captured everything. A man in a business suit stepped forward. I'm Nathan Richards, corporate attorney. Not for the airline, just a passenger, but I want everyone to know that what's happening here has clear legal implications. Discrimination, false imprisonment, violation of federal aviation regulations. The word lawsuit rippled through the crowd like wildfire. Morrison's phone rang again. This time, when he answered, everyone could hear the panic in his voice. Yes, I understand. Immediately? He looked at Marcus with something between fear and recognition dawning in his eyes. Mr. Johnson, there might have been a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Dorothy laughed bitterly. That's what you call this? Marcus finally spoke, his voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority. Captain Morrison, there's no misunderstanding. Everyone here has seen exactly what happened. The question now is what happens next. The entire cabin held its breath. The live stream viewers climbed past 30,000. News outlets were picking up the story. The airline's stock price had begun to dip. Thomas, the young flight attendant, made a decision. Mr. Johnson is dash. Stop! Morrison commanded desperately. But the truth was already seeping out through the cracks in their carefully maintained system. Morrison's image appeared on the cockpit's video screen, visible through the open door. Behind him, on the emergency conference call, two figures materialized: General Counsel Elizabeth Sterling and VP of Operations Robert Winters, both looking stricken from the Crisis Management Center. "Captain Morrison!" Sterling's voice crackled through the aircraft's communication system. "We're watching everything via security feeds. We need immediate de-escalation." "We're handling it," Morrison began. "No, Captain." "You're not." Sterling's tone could have frozen jet fuel. "We've just received a whistleblower report." 3 years of documentation. "From whom?" Morrison demanded, though his authority had evaporated. "That would be me." A young flight attendant stepped forward from the back galley. "Tanya Williams," her nameplate read. Her hands shook, but her voice stayed strong. 3 years I've watched this. 3 years I've been told to follow unofficial protocols." She held up her phone. "Emails from management, training documents that were supposed to be destroyed, audio recordings of crew meetings where we were told which passengers to monitor closely." Rebecca gasped. "Tanya, you can't." "I can, and I did." Tanya's eyes blazed. "They made us rank passengers by potential disruption factors." Race was never written down, but we all knew the code words. Marcus watched Patricia sink into the nearest empty seat. Her phone lay forgotten in her lap. "May 15th, Tanya continued, reading from her phone. "Email from Captain Morrison to crew. Remember, premium cabin comfort is our priority. Use discretion when certain passengers book above their usual class." "That's not," Morrison started. "June 3rd. Rebecca to scheduling. Mrs. Henderson prefers flights where we can accommodate her special requests regarding seat arrangements. You understand. July 22nd. Tanya's voice grew stronger. "Memo from regional management. Flight 447 has the highest satisfaction scores among our target demographic. Keep up the excellent work." David whistled low. "They put it in writing." "Not exactly." Robert Winter's voice came through the speaker, sounding sick. "They used code words. Target demographic. Special requests. Discretion. We all knew what it meant," Tanya said. "Every black passenger who got extra screening. Every Latino family told their carry-on was too big. Every random check that wasn't random." Marcus pulled out a single sheet from his briefcase. "Officer Daniels, you mentioned dealing with problem passengers frequently. According to data I've analyzed, 89% of security calls on Flight 447 involve passengers of color, despite them making up only 31% of travelers." Daniels' hand moved unconsciously to his radio, as if seeking escape. Those numbers," Morrison stammered, "are from your own reports." Sterling's fingers flew across her tablet. "Mr. Johnson apparently has access to internal data, extensive access." The crowd pressed closer. Someone whispered, "How does he have that?" Others pulled up the airline's website, checking their own past flights. "But the smoking gun," Marcus said quietly, "came this morning." He pulled out his phone, showing a screenshot. Patricia Henderson's social media post from 2 hours ago. "About to fly with the usual suspects. Thank God for crew who know how to handle them." Patricia lunged for his phone. "You can't use that! Privacy laws .. Public post," Maria Rodriguez noted. "I saw it too." "You tagged the airline. It has 47 likes from other frequent flyers." Sterling read from her tablet, voice hollow. "Mrs. Henderson has filed 14 complaints in 2 years, every single one against a passenger of color. Every time, our crew accommodated her, gave her their seats, had them moved. Because she's diamond status," Rebecca protested weakly. "No." Marcus's voice cut through. "Because your system enabled her prejudice, rewarded it, institutionalized it. The evidence kept coming. Passengers began sharing their own stories. each testimony another nail in the coffin of systemic discrimination. Morrison's image on the screen showed a broken man. We were just maintaining standards. Whose standards? Dorothy asked pointedly. The truth was now undeniable, documented, and witnessed by thousands. Marcus Johnson stood in the center of the aisle, every eye fixed on him. The briefcase hung loose in his hands, documents visible but not yet fully revealed. The weight of 30 years pressed down on this moment. My name is Marcus Johnson. His voice carried the authority of 3 decades of leadership. My father, William Johnson, started this airline in 1978 with one plane and a dream that everyone deserved to fly with dignity. Patricia Henderson's sharp intake of breath cut through the silence. I am the CEO and majority owner of this airline. He let the words land like thunder. You're CEO, and today I sat in economy class to see what my customers truly experience. The collective gasp rippled through the cabin like a physical force. Rebecca's legs buckled. She caught herself on the service cart. Morrison's image on the screen froze, his mouth open in shock. No, Patricia whispered. No. That's impossible. Daniels muttered. But his protest died as Marcus held up his corporate ID, the one piece he'd kept hidden until now. The holographic seal caught the light. Unmistakable. For 6 months. Marcus continued. I've been reading complaints. Families humiliated. Business travelers questioned. Children made to feel unwelcome on the airline their parents chose to trust. His voice cracked. 3 weeks ago, a young black woman wrote to me. She said flying with us reminded her why her grandmother took the bus instead of planes in the 1960s. Dorothy nodded, tears streaming down weathered cheeks. Same reasons my mama gave. Marcus pulled out Amelia's photo, holding it where everyone could see. My daughter died because medical professionals saw her skin color before her symptoms. I swore then promised her that any company I ran would never make assumptions based on appearance. His eyes found Rebecca. You've been with us 7 years. Good reviews, regular promotions. But somewhere along the way, you learned that treating certain passengers differently would advance your career. Who taught you that? Rebecca's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Captain Morrison. Marcus turned to the screen. 30 years of service. 16 commendations. How many of those came from maintaining what you called comfortable flights for select passengers? Morrison's face had gone grey on the video feed. His lips moved in what might have been prayer or confession. And Mrs. Henderson Marcus faced Patricia directly. Diamond status. $50,000 a year in tickets. Do you know what that bought you? Patricia shrank back, her perfectly applied makeup running in dark streams. It bought you a staff willing to violate federal law to keep you comfortable. It bought you the power to humiliate other human beings. It bought you complicity in discrimination. I want my lawyer! Patricia choked out. You'll need one, Sterling said through the speaker. The Department of Transportation is already investigating. The ACLU has been notified. This live stream is evidence in what will likely be the largest civil rights case in aviation history. Marcus felt the weight of the moment, not triumph, but responsibility. These weren't just employees who'd failed. They were symptoms of a disease he'd allowed to fester in his company. But I failed too, he admitted, surprising everyone. I built policies and procedures, but I didn't build a culture strong enough to resist this poison. I trusted the wrong leaders. I prioritized expansion over excellence, profits over people. Tanya Williams stepped forward. Mr. Johnson, you couldn't have known. I should have known. His voice was firm. When complaints spiked on certain routes, I should have investigated personally. When certain crews had perfect satisfaction scores from only part of our customer base, I should have asked why. The cabin fell silent, except for the hum of engines and occasional sob. So what happens now? James Wilson asked, his military bearing unchanged despite the emotional weight. Marcus straightened, CEO mode, engaging fully. First, everyone on this crew is suspended pending investigation. Officer Daniels, Officer Rodriguez, you'll need to explain to your superiors why you attempted to remove a passenger without cause. We were just... Daniels started. Following orders? Marcus's eyebrow raised. History judges that excuse harshly. He turned to address the passengers, the cameras, the world watching. Every person on this flight will receive a full refund. But more importantly, you're witnesses to a transformation that starts today. You can't just fire us all, Rebecca protested. I can and I will fire anyone who participated in discrimination. Marcus's voice hardened. But those who step forward, who help us understand how deep this goes, who commit to being part of the solution, they'll have a chance at redemption. His phone buzzed. The board of directors, all watching, all supporting. But one message stood out from his daughter, Janet. Dad would be proud. Amelia would be prouder. Mr. Johnson, Patricia's lawyer, was apparently already on speakerphone. My client was merely expressing preferences. Your client, Marcus interrupted, weaponized her privilege to harm others. That ends today. The reveal complete. The world watching. Justice finally had a face. Marcus pulled the final document from his briefcase, a single page that would reshape everything. This is Executive Order 1 of what I'm calling Project Dignity. Effective immediately, any employee who discriminates against passengers will be terminated. Any passenger who harasses others will be banned for life. Any executive who enables prejudice will be prosecuted. You can't just... Morrison struggled to speak from the screen. I own 51% of this company. Marcus said simply. I can, and I will. Within seconds, every screen in the aircraft displayed a message. This flight is now under executive review. All crew actions are being documented for training and legal purposes. Marcus dialed a number on his phone, putting it on speaker. Dr. Keisha Williams. Yes, it's time. Implement Protocol Dignity immediately. Who is Dr. Williams? Someone asked. Our new Chief Ethics Officer. Marcus announced. Former Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. She's been preparing for this moment for 6 months. Through the aircraft's communication system, Doctor. Williams' voice filled the cabin. Good afternoon. I'm speaking to all 15,000 employees across our network. What you're witnessing on Flight 447 is not an isolated incident. It's a teaching moment that will reshape our entire operation. Morrison's image on the screen showed him slowly removing his captain's wings. Without a word, he held them up to the camera, then set them aside. The soft click echoed through the feed. Captain Morrison, Marcus said quietly. That's not necessary yet. Yes. Morrison replied, his voice broken. It is. I forgot why I started flying, forgot that every passenger deserves to feel safe and welcome. He looked directly into the camera. I'm sorry. That's inadequate, but it's true. Rebecca followed suit, removing her wings with shaking hands. But then she did something unexpected. She turned to Tanya. You should have been head attendant 2 years ago. I blocked your promotion because you wouldn't play along. Tanya's eyes widened. I knew it. Document everything. Marcus instructed Sterling. Every confession, every revelation. This becomes part of our permanent training archive. Dr. Williams continued over the speakers. Effective immediately. All diversity complaints will be investigated by external auditors. All crew assignments will be randomized to prevent discriminatory patterns. All passenger complaints will be reviewed by my office personally. That'll cost millions. Robert Winters said quietly through the video link. Discrimination has already cost us millions. Marcus countered. In lost customers, lawsuits, and something worth more than money, our integrity. Patricia Henderson suddenly spoke up. I want to make a deal. Every head turned. She sat straighter, mascara streaked but determined. I have emails, she continued, from other airlines. from hotels, from restaurants. All of them have similar arrangements, unofficial policies. I'll share everything if you guarantee ... No deals. Marcus cut her off. But if you want to help expose this network, we'll note your cooperation. The ripple effect was immediate. Passengers began sharing stories from other carriers, other industries. The problem was systemic, industry-wide. Mr. Johnson, a young black flight attendant, stepped forward nervously. I'm Jerome Taylor, from the back galley. I participated, followed orders I knew were wrong, but I want to be part of fixing this. Marcus studied him. Why should I trust you? Because I have a daughter now. Jerome's voice cracked. She's 2. I don't want her growing up in a world where I helped normalize discrimination. Jerome will join the retraining program. Doctor, Williams announced through the speaker, led by Mrs. Tanya Williams, our new head of crew excellence. Tanya gasped. What? I'm just Dash, the person who risked everything to do what's right. Marcus finished. Exactly who should be teaching others. The changes cascaded through the system in real time. Security protocols rewritten to require documented cause. Passenger rights cards to be placed in every seat pocket. A direct hotline to Dr. Williams' office established. Body cameras mandatory for all security interactions. Quarterly bias testing for all customer-facing employees. Anonymous reporting system implemented immediately. This is too fast, someone protested. 60 years after the Civil Rights Act is too fast? Dorothy asked sharply. How much slower should we go? Marcus turned to the passengers. Each of you will receive a follow-up call from my office personally. Not just an apology and invitation to help us build something better, James Wilson stood at attention. I spent 20 years defending freedom. Today, you're actually delivering it. Count me in. Maria Rodriguez raised her hand. I teach 6th grade. Can we develop educational programs? Show kids this moment? Teach them why it matters? Yes, Marcus said immediately. In fact, he turned to address the video conference. Create a full educational division. Real stories, real consequences, real change. The transformation wasn't just policy, it was personal. Throughout the cabin, crew members began approaching passengers they'd wronged. Thomas, the young flight attendant, approached an elderly black couple in row 20. Last month, I made you check a bag that was regulation size. I'm sorry, I knew it was wrong. But the most powerful moment came when Patricia Henderson stood. Her perfect composure was gone, replaced by something raw and uncertain. She stopped, started again. I was raised to believe I deserved special treatment. I never questioned it until... She gestured around the cabin. Until I saw myself through your eyes. Through that child's eyes who asked why I was being mean. Recognition, Marcus said quietly, is where change begins. His phone showed the numbers, stock price dropping. Board members nervous, lawyers circling. He didn't care. In his pocket, Amelia's photo seemed to warm. This is what she would have wanted. Not just justice for today, but transformation for tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus announced, welcome to the first flight of a new airline. Same planes, same routes, but a completely different promise. Everyone flies with dignity, or no one flies at all. The applause started slowly, Jerome clapping in the back, Tanya joining, then David, Maria, Dorothy, James. Soon the entire cabin thundered with approval. But Marcus wasn't done. The hardest part was still coming. Making this change permanent, systematic, unbreakable. Mr. Johnson, Dr. Williams's voice crackled through the speaker. We have requests from 47 companies wanting to implement similar programs. What should I tell them? Marcus looked around the cabinet faces that had gone from silent witnesses to active participants. Tell them the protocol is open source, free to anyone willing to commit to real change. That's millions in consulting fees you're giving away. Robert Winters said through the video link. Some things, Marcus replied, are more valuable than money. 3 first-class passengers approached, all white, all wealthy, all uncomfortable. Mr. Johnson, the eldest, spoke carefully. I'm Richard Hartwell, Hartwell Industries. I've been Patricia's seatmate before. Laughed at her comments, said nothing when crew gave her special treatment. He paused. I want to make it right. Full audit of my hotels. Your Dr. Williams leads it. Whatever she finds, we fix. Public report, no hiding. The transformation was spreading beyond aviation, beyond this moment, into the fabric of American business. The plane had become a transformation center. In first class, 3 CEOs huddled around phones, calling emergency board meetings. In economy, passengers exchanged contact information, building networks that would outlast this flight. We need a name for this movement, someone called out. The Dignity Alliance, suggested the 8-year-old, who'd asked why the lady was being mean. Her mother beamed with pride. Perfect, Marcus agreed. David was already coordinating with tech workers in the cabin. We're building an app, anonymous reporting, real-time translation, direct line to ethics officers. My company will fund the initial development. Maria Rodriguez had turned Row 16 into an impromptu headquarters. I have 17 teachers ready to develop curriculum. My principal wants to make this required viewing for our diversity unit. But the most surprising alliance came from Patricia Henderson herself. She approached Marcus slowly, her lawyer having long since hung up. I know I can't undo what I've done, she said, voice small. But I can help undo what others are doing. I have recordings, emails, an entire network of people who think like I did. I'll give you everything. Why? Tanya asked suspiciously. Patricia's voice broke. Because my granddaughter saw the live stream. She's 8. Mixed race. My daughter married a black man despite my objections. She asked me why I was being mean to people who look like her daddy. Tears fell freely. I couldn't answer. The cabin fell silent. Then Dorothy spoke. Child, redemption isn't guaranteed, but it's always possible if you do the work. Marcus made a decision. Patricia, you'll work with Dr. Williams. Full disclosure, full cooperation. You'll face consequences, but you'll also help prevent others from making your mistakes. Captain Morrison appeared on screen one final time, now in civilian clothes. I'd like to help too. Not to save my job, I know that's gone, but to help train pilots on how I went wrong, how bias creeps in, how to stop it. Accepted, Marcus said. Dr. Williams will coordinate. The alliance grew organically. Flight attendants creating a Truth and Reconciliation Committee. Terdiga. Passengers forming oversight groups. Tech workers building accountability platforms. Teachers developing educational programs. Lawyers offering pro bono services for discrimination victims. By the time they began descent into Chicago, the movement had structure. Local chapters in 17 cities, a board mixing employees, passengers, and activists. Funding commitments from 12 companies. Media partnerships for transparency. Educational programs reaching 200 school districts, the seatbelt sign illuminated. As passengers prepared for landing, the energy was palpable. Not just anger transformed to action, but hope made tangible. Tanya, now head of crew excellence, made the landing announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, we're beginning our descent into Chicago. When we land, you're not just disembarking from a flight. You're joining a movement. The Dignity Alliance starts with each of us choosing to see, speak, and act when we witness injustice. She paused, voice strong. On behalf of a transforming airline and a crew committed to change, thank you for your courage today. Thank you for not looking away. The plane touched down to something unprecedented in aviation history. Applause not for the landing, but for the launching of something bigger. Marcus felt his phone buzz. Janet. Dad would be proud. Amelia would be prouder. I'm proud. He typed back, it's just beginning. The live stream comments scrolled endlessly. This changes everything. Finally, accountability. I'm checking my company's policies tomorrow. As passengers began to deplane, each received a card with a QR code linking to the Dignity Alliance platform. Within minutes, thousands were signing up. Jerome approached Marcus. "Mr. Johnson, my wife just texted. She's crying. She says this is the father she wants our daughter to have." Even Officer Daniels, lingering uncertainly by the jet bridge, approached. I need to report some things at my precinct. Similar patterns. The revolution wasn't just spreading, it was taking root. 6 months later, Marcus Johnson stood in the same airport, watching Flight 447 board. The crew wore new pinned silver wings, intertwined with equality symbols. Tanya Williams directed operations, her confidence evident. Behind her, crew members helped all passengers equally. A sight that shouldn't be remarkable, but was. Mr. J! David approached with a tablet. The Dignity Alliance app just hit 1 million downloads. We've prevented over 400 incidents. But, he paused. We also documented 47 new discrimination complaints last week alone. Progress isn't perfect, Marcus replied. It's persistent. Patricia Henderson emerged from the jetway, wearing a simple Dignity Alliance volunteer vest. She distributed passenger rights cards, her movements humble. Her granddaughter's drawing was pinned to her vest. Stick figures of all colors holding hands on an airplane. Some days I slip. She admitted quietly to Marcus. Old thoughts, old assumptions, but I catch myself now. That's all any of us can do, Marcus said. Dr. Williams appeared beside them. The Department of Transportation report came in. Industry-wide discrimination complaints down 73%. Not perfect, but real change. 3 airlines copied our program completely. 2 others are fighting it in court. Captain Morrison walked past in civilian clothes, heading to teach his workshop. Confronting unconscious bias in aviation. He'd become their most effective instructor precisely because he admitted his failures publicly. But the real victories were in the small moments. Marcus watched a black family board without anxiety. A Muslim woman adjusted her hijab without fearful glances. A Latino businessman settled into first class without anyone questioning his right to be there. Not perfect, not complete, but better. His phone showed a photo from Janet Amelia's grave, decorated with fresh flowers and a news clipping. How one flight changed American aviation, the ongoing story. As Marcus watched passengers board, he thought about everyone reading this story. Maybe from their own airplane seat, their office, their home. Wondering if they'd have the courage to speak up. You already have the power. The next time you witness discrimination, you have 3 choices. Record it, report it, confront it. Your silence is complicity. Your voice is change. These real-life stories, black stories, touching stories, aren't just about one flight. They're about every moment when we choose dignity over discrimination. Your moment is coming. Be ready.